Hi everyone, welcome to your latest planning outlook updated on Friday the 21st of February. Now, there's some more severe winter weather on the way with another deep Atlantic storm moving in for Monday, widespread gales even through this weekend with very cold air in place. And we've got generally cold air that's likely to stay with us through the rest of this month and even into the start of March if most indications are to be believed. We'll start with the usual look at temperatures. This is the 850 millibar level found at the moment between around 1200 and 1400 metres, a little bit lower than that in the centre of a low pressure system coming in on Monday. Basically a cold front sweeping southwards on the early hours of Saturday will take away the milder air that briefly came in when we lifted above freezing on Friday, and for Saturday daytime some very cold air is being swept across the country on westerly winds. Indeed, at around 1300 metres in the Highlands, the value shown here is suggested around -7, with freezing levels down to 300-400 metres or at times below. So a big change of air mass once again coming in for Saturday. Stays cold broadly across the Highlands on Sunday, bit of a lift of temperatures at least temporarily across Wales and just into northern England, but overall it stays with that chilly westerly flow. Monday is going to be a complicated one as the next frontal system comes in, a deep low moving in from the Atlantic. Just exactly the track of that low will then dictate where the temperatures get to. It could well be that most Scottish mountains stay sub-zero throughout, but freezing levels will tend to lift a bit, at least for a time through the day, starting off very low with snow to lower levels, then just lifting to say 800-1,000 metres before coming down again. A brief warm sector will have moved across England and Wales, but even there temperatures will drop again into Monday evening and night. By the time we get through into Tuesday, cold westerlies are back in charge, and that will dominate then through the middle of the week. Temperatures shown here around -5 or 6 at around 1200 or 1300 metres, so freezing levels down below 600 metres for much of the time through the middle of the week across most of the British mountains. Even later in the week, we may well find that at least Scotland stays sub-zero throughout. A bit of a lift of freezing level may just get into Wales, perhaps northern England just getting close to zero or just above on the highest tops for a time. But even towards next weekend, it's a cold westerly feed that is set to dominate, and temperatures and freezing levels may well come down a touch again, and indications into the start of March still keeping us in that generally chilly westerly flow. So plenty of sub-zero conditions ongoing over the next 10 days, if not more. This is the ongoing story of snow depth then in 6-hour steps, taking you forwards from this weekend with lying snow across the Highlands, some substantial accumulations developing again, particularly across the west and the northwest, but blowing around a lot, so some of that snow really piling up in places, being stripped off the terrain in others, and some accumulations developing again across the tops of the lakes and the Pennines. Interesting times then into Sunday evening and night, because that's when the next frontal system moves in, and it will run into cold air and will start off as extensive snow to low levels, even across the Pennines and the Lake District. Here it will turn readily to rain up to higher slopes. In the Highlands, though, it's going to take a bit longer to turn to rain, and it may well be that it stays as snow across the mountains much of the day, turning to rain and sleet around western coasts, maybe above even 600 or 700 metres, perhaps higher than that for a time. But freezing levels will soon drop again, so snow will once again fall to lower slopes as we head onwards into Tuesday. This then continuing the story on through the middle of the week, and it stays with a cold westerly, and those accumulations return once again to Wales, to the Pennines, to the Lake District through the middle part of the week. May just ease back again here a touch later in the week. If we skip on even towards next weekend, there's still the scope for that cold west by northwesterly flow. That's next Saturday to put snowfall back onto the Welsh tops again. Synoptic charts for the next 5 days, and this is Saturday with a powerful westerly wind once again across the mountains, gale force from low levels up, storm force across the higher mountains, and a very cold day then in place as we've seen. Wind chill factor could well be down as low as -25 on the higher Scottish summits. A cold front drifting southwards slowly. It doesn't really clear because it just runs along in a line, with some patchy rain fading generally as the day goes on for Wales. Further north, it's a story of snow and hail showers rattling in, the most frequent and heaviest across western Scotland, with the risk of hail and thunder at times. Fewer showers further east, but still a scattering we'll get across the Cairngorms. Now, things are moving fairly quickly onwards into Sunday as the next frontal system sweeps eastwards. Some heavy rain, some upland snow across the Pennines and the Lake District and southern uplands as we go overnight into Sunday. That system more or less moving through and pressure tending to build a bit behind it. Still some snow and hail showers though coming into west and northwest Scotland. These just becoming a bit more scattered even here as the day goes on. The worst of the wind will also just tend to drop, but still staying near gale force for a good part of the day. The next developing low is lying to the southwest, and that will really wind itself up to the west of Ireland overnight into Monday. And that's where we get to by the middle of Monday. Still some uncertainty on the exact track of the centre of that low, which will dictate who sees the worst of the wind and exactly where the snow to rain boundary does get to through the day. It's likely though that storm force or hurricane force winds will affect the mountains for a good many hours, and snow is likely extensively across the highlands. Transitioning to rain or sleet at lower levels, particularly around western coasts and across England and Wales, all turning to rain at least for a time. But as the cold front moves through, temperatures and freezing levels will drop again, so it may just finish as some snow on the higher tops and turning icy again as things go sub-zero. Once the front clears, though, it could well be that things brighten up across the western side of England and Wales, but it will stay very windy. It's a very familiar story heading onwards into the middle of the week. A cold westerly air mass that prevails with, again, showers coming in from the west, sometimes organised into clusters as various troughs and fronts just come in. But basically snow or hail often falling to lower slopes, risk of a rumble of thunder in there at times in some of the heavier showers. Most of the showers once again focused on western regions with frequent whiteout across the mountains. Windy conditions as well. It may be the worst of the wind tends to ease a little bit, but we've got to watch the absolute detail of the forecast at this stage. Still be prepared for severe wind chill across most of the higher terrain. And all very similar into Wednesday. Those cold west by northwesterly winds prevail. Snow and hail showers coming in from the Atlantic, very frequent across western Scotland, banding together to be very frequent elsewhere at times as well. Risk of some thunder mixed in, and temperatures staying cold through the middle of the week. Not a great deal of change even later in the week, maybe some variations in the strength of the wind, which might just give you the odd day of quieter conditions, but overall it stays cold across the mountains, the air coming around from the North Atlantic and Greenland, so still with sub-zero conditions with some further snow and hail coming in at times, maybe a brief lift of temperature as mentioned across the southern half of Britain. But overall, low pressure stays to the north, high pressure to the south, and that chilly west by northwesterly pattern is likely to take us into next weekend. So yes, some complications from day to day just in terms of who gets the most prolonged or heaviest precipitation, with some fronts trying to come in from the southwest. But overall it's often a story of showers with low pressure centred towards the north and just bands of showers rotating around that to come in off the North Atlantic quite frequently, even onwards into next weekend. And finally, in the longer range, the idea is for the first week of March. This is the pressure anomaly. It suggests still lower than average pressure to our north, higher than average pressure towards our south, and the prevailing airflow coming around as a west by northwesterly still, with the origins of the air coming around either from Greenland or off the northern side of Canada, maintaining then that very familiar cold westerly pattern that we've been used to through much of February so far. So stay up to date with your local forecasts for the short range every day on our website, and I'll update the video again for you early in the new week. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.